The night began like any other spring break celebration. Laughter, drinks, and the easy rhythm of college life. Brian Shaffer, a bright and charismatic 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University, stepped into the Ugly Tuna Saloon with his best friend, Clint Florence, and Clint's girlfriend, Meredith Reed. It was just past midnight on April 1st, 2006, and the bar was alive with the energy of students unwinding before finals. Brian, dressed in a green-striped polo and khaki shorts, blended into the crowd, his easy smile making him a familiar face in the sea of strangers. Security cameras captured him entering the bar at 1:15 a.m., his last known movements preserved in grainy black and white footage. He was seen chatting with two women near the entrance, his demeanor relaxed, nothing out of the ordinary. Clint, feeling tired, decided to leave early, assuming Brian would follow soon after. The two exchanged no dramatic goodbyes, just the casual understanding that they'd catch up later. But Brian never left. When his friends realized he hadn't come home the next morning, they assumed he'd crashed somewhere else. But as hours turned into days, unease set in. Brian wasn't the type to vanish without a word. He was weeks away from graduating, had plans with his girlfriend, and was close with his family. His father, Randy, a former FBI agent, knew immediately that something was wrong. The investigation that followed only deepened the mystery. Police reviewed every frame of security footage from the bar. Cameras covered the main entrance, the escalator, and the exits. Yet Brian was never seen leaving. The only possible way out was a back service door, but employees insisted it was alarmed and would have triggered if opened. His cell phone pinged once near a nearby construction site before going dark forever. The Ugly Tuna was searched top to bottom. The construction site was scoured. The Olentangy River was dragged. Nothing. No body, no belongings, no signs of a struggle. It was as if Brian Shaffer had stepped into the crowded bar and simply ceased to exist. The case took on an eerie, almost supernatural quality. How could a man vanish inside a building with no record of him leaving? Was he still inside when the bar closed? Did he slip out unseen, only to meet with foul play? Or was there something more sinister at play, an abduction, a hidden crime, a secret he took with him? Years passed. His mother died in a freak accident, his father never giving up the search. Sightings were reported, a blurry figure in an airport, a stranger in another state, but none led to answers. To this day, Brian Shaffer's disappearance remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries. A night that started with laughter and drinks ended in a silence that has never been broken. The bar is gone now, the case grown cold, but the question lingers, whispered in true crime forums and late-night discussions. What really happened to Brian Shaffer that night? The clock ticked past 2 a.m. inside the Ugly Tuna Saloon, the crowd thinning as last call approached. Somewhere in the dimly lit bar, Brian Shaffer was still moving through the space, laughing, talking, existing, but the exact moment he ceased to be seen is lost to time. When investigators later pieced together the night, they were met with a chilling reality. Brian never appeared on any exit footage. The security cameras, positioned at every logical point of departure, showed nothing. No glimpse of his green-striped shirt, no hurried escape, no sign of distress. He had walked into the bar, and then he was gone. The only possible explanation was the back service entrance, a heavy door used for deliveries and trash removal. Employees insisted it was alarmed, but no alarm had sounded that night. If Brian had slipped out that way, why? Had someone forced him? Or had he chosen to leave unseen, stepping into the cool April darkness for reasons no one could guess? Outside, the construction site next to the bar loomed like a silent witness. Fresh concrete had been poured in the early morning hours, a detail that would later haunt investigators. Brian's cell phone pinged once near that site before shutting off forever. Was it a clue or a cruel coincidence? By sunrise, the bar was empty, cleaned, and locked. If Brian had still been inside when the staff left, what happened to him? Had he hidden? Fallen? Been taken? There were no screams, no signs of a struggle, no trace left behind. It was as if the night itself had swallowed him whole. The mystery only deepened in the days that followed. The cameras hadn't malfunctioned. The footage hadn't been tampered with. Every possible exit had been accounted for, yet Brian was nowhere to be seen. Where did he go? The question lingers, unanswered. A man doesn't simply disappear from a crowded bar, and yet, Brian did. The morning after Brian Shaffer's disappearance dawned with uneasy quiet. His apartment remained empty, his bed untouched. When calls to his cell phone went straight to voicemail, his friends initially assumed he had crashed somewhere else after a long night. But as hours passed with no word, a gnawing dread set in. By Sunday afternoon, April 2nd, Brian's father, Randy Shaffer, a former FBI agent, knew something was terribly wrong. His son wasn't the type to vanish without a trace. Brian had everything to live for. He was weeks away from graduating medical school, had plans to vacation with his girlfriend Alexis Wauman in Miami, and was known for his responsible nature. His sudden radio silence made no sense. Randy immediately contacted Columbus police, who launched a missing persons investigation. Detectives descended on the ugly tuna saloona, reviewing security footage frame by frame. The grainy tapes confirmed Brian had entered the bar at 1:15 a.m., but showed no evidence of him leaving. Officers walked the route Brian would have taken home, checking alleyways, dumpsters, and parking garages. Nothing. The search expanded to the nearby Olentangy River, where dive teams combed the murky waters, fearing Brian might have fallen in after leaving the bar disoriented. Cadaver dogs were brought to the construction site adjacent to the bar, sniffing around freshly poured concrete slabs. Was it possible Brian had somehow become trapped there? The dogs showed interest in one area, but excavation revealed no human remains. Meanwhile, Brian's friends and family papered the campus with missing person flyers bearing his smiling photo. His brother Derek arrived from Cincinnati to help coordinate search parties. They checked hospitals, homeless shelters, even the morgue, all dead ends. The most baffling clue came from phone records. On April 3rd, 2 days after his disappearance, Brian's cell phone briefly connected to a tower near the bar before going dead forever. Had someone powered it on? Was Brian still alive at that point, trying to call for help? Or was it just a ghost signal from a dying battery? By April 5th, with no body, no ransom note, and no credible sightings, the case had already taken on an eerie quality. How could a 6'2", 180-pound medical student vanish from a crowded bar without a single witness seeing anything amiss? The security footage became both the key piece of evidence and the source of the mystery. Brian Shaffer was there, and then he simply wasn't. As the initial frantic search yielded no answers, the investigation settled into a grim routine of dead ends and diminishing leads. The once bustling bar where Brian was last seen now stood as an unsettling monument to the unknown, its walls holding secrets they would not give up. The disappearance of Brian Shaffer has become one of the most haunting, unsolved mysteries of the 21st century, a case that defies logic and lingers like a shadow over everyone who has tried to piece together what really happened that night. Over the years, investigators, journalists, armchair detectives, and even psychics have proposed countless theories, each one more unsettling than the last, yet none providing the closure Brian's family so desperately sought. The most persistent and frustrating question remains: how does a grown man vanish inside a bar without ever being seen leaving? The security footage from the ugly Tuna Saloona is both the key to the mystery and its greatest enigma. Brian walks in, smiling, alive, and then he is simply gone. No cameras capture him exiting. No witnesses recall seeing him leave. Some believe he may have slipped out through an unmonitored service door, perhaps disoriented or in distress. But if that's the case, where did he go next? His cell phone pinged once near the construction site next to the bar before going dark forever. Was it a clue or just a cruel coincidence? The site had fresh concrete poured in the early morning hours after his disappearance, a detail that has fueled speculation for years. Could Brian have fallen into an open pit? Was his body buried beneath layers of steel and cement? Investigators brought in cadaver dogs, which showed interest in one particular area, but no remains were ever found. Then there's the possibility of foul play. Was Brian followed that night? Targeted? Some witnesses recall him speaking with an unidentified man near the bar's entrance. Was that person involved? Others wonder if an altercation inside the bar turned deadly, his body hidden and later removed. But if that's true, how was it done without anyone noticing? The lack of blood, the absence of any signs of struggle, the silence from every potential witness, it all makes the theory feel both plausible and impossible at the same time. The idea that Brian chose to disappear has also been floated, but those who knew him best dismiss it outright. He was weeks away from graduating medical school, had plans with his girlfriend, and was close with his family. His father, Randy, a former FBI agent, spent years chasing every lead, certain his son would never walk away without a word. And yet, if he didn't leave willingly, and if no crime was committed, what other explanation is there? The lack of answers has given rise to darker, more speculative theories. Some online sleuths have whispered about doppelgangers, parallel dimensions, even supernatural abductions. While these ideas belong more to the realm of urban legend than cold, hard evidence, they speak to the eerie nature of the case. A man stepping into a crowded bar and never stepping back out. Years have passed. The bar has closed. Brian's mother died in a freak accident in 2008, his father in 2021, both without ever knowing the truth. The case remains open, but the trail has long gone cold. And so the question lingers, whispered in true crime forums and late-night discussions. What really happened to Brian Shaffer? Until the day someone, or something, provides an answer, his disappearance remains a ghost story dressed in the clothes of a police file, a reminder that sometimes people really do vanish without a trace. Days bled into weeks with no sign of Brian Shaffer, but then a flicker of hope, or perhaps just another cruel twist in an already agonizing mystery. In the first week of April 2006, Brian's girlfriend, Alexis Wallman, left a voicemail on his cell phone. It was a desperate plea, the kind you make when you're still clinging to the fragile belief that the person you love might simply be ignoring your calls, not gone forever. Then something strange happened. The call connected. For the briefest moment, the voicemail system registered activity, as if Brian's phone had powered on, just long enough to acknowledge the incoming message before shutting off again. But there was no answer, no voice on the other end. Just silence, and then the hollow click of disconnection. When investigators pulled the phone records, they confirmed it. Days after Brian had vanished, his phone had briefly pinged a cell tower near the bar where he was last seen. Was it Brian, alive but unable to speak? Had someone else turned the phone on, only to immediately power it down? Or was it just a ghost signal, the last gasp of a dying battery before it went dark forever? The possibilities were maddening. If Brian had been hurt or held somewhere, why hadn't he spoken? If someone else had the phone, why turn it on at all? And if it was just a technical glitch, why did it happen at the exact moment his girlfriend called? The voicemail became a haunting coda to the case, a whisper of life where there should have been none, a fleeting signal in the static of the unknown. It was the kind of detail that kept Brian's father, Randy, searching long after others might have given up. Because if the phone had been active, even for a second, then maybe, just maybe, Brian had been too. But like everything else in this case, the voicemail led nowhere. The phone never activated again. No more signals, no more calls. Just silence stretching across years, broken only by the occasional unverified sighting. A man who looked like Brian spotted in a crowd, a blurry figure caught on a security camera, all of them dissolving into nothing upon closer inspection. The voicemail remains one of the most chilling loose ends in Brian Shaffer's disappearance. A moment that should have been a clue, but instead became just another question in a case defined by them. A single, static-filled breath on the line, and then, like Brian himself, gone without explanation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.